Time has not been kind to the original Mario Land. Being one of those games that was amazing back when it first released has been outdone tenfold by later entries, especially later handheld entries. Whether that would be Super Mario Land 2, Super Mario Advance 4, and especially New Super Mario Bros., these games showcase how good 2D Mario can be on a handheld. But that begs the question, what if we got a remake to this game? Well, New Super Mario Land answers this question. A homebrew made for the Super Nintendo that was made using the original coding that remakes most of the content in the original game. But does that mean the remake is good? Well, let's find out. Understanding why the original Mario Land hasn't aged well will require going over the gameplay, particularly Mario's physics and feel. His physics overall feel a lot closer to the original Super Mario Bros., being noticeable with the jump arcs. However, Mario moves slower to a point where he doesn't feel as good as he does in other games. The only other aspect related to his physics is when going off of platforms. For some reason, the developers decided to have Mario drop like an anvil if he walks off. I assume this was intended to replicate how Mario walks off platforms in the original Super Mario Bros., but it ends up looking like it wasn't intended to work like that, and Mario just slips through falling platforms if he isn't running. New Super Mario Land, on the other hand, feels solid to play. I would say it takes a moment to get used to how it plays, and Mario looks like he's supposed to move a bit faster in his animations, but it plays great with how it goes with the physics and feel of the New Super Mario Bros. Games, minus the triple jump and ground pound. His running and jumping mechanics work well when playing levels, and I never had any instances where the controls screwed me over. Because of that, the feel is much smoother than how it was in the original Mario Land. The only gameplay mechanic I am against being here is the wall jump. With the wall jump being in this game, it makes easy levels being easier to go through, and some of the instances where the Super Ball would be useful make the power-up not needed as much. One change I like is the look of Mario when he has the Super Ball power-up. In the original, nothing about him changed because of the limitations of the Game Boy. Here, they decided to repurpose the feather Mario wore in getting the Fire Flower from Mario Land 2, and I like that. It makes the power-up more distinct from others in the series. Scoring system's been changed as it's not even here. In the original, the scoring system was to allow for an extra continue based on getting 100,000 points. Here, it works like in New Super Mario Bros., where you chain a number of enemies with a star and get 1-ups if you continue that chain before it runs out. I think this change is fine since Super Mario Land is an easy game to beat, but I wish there was a max amount of lives you can get via invincibility because it is easy to rack up many lives in one go. Another thing I want to mention related to the gameplay is the submarine and airplane levels. These were 1/6 of the game that could have just been regular levels, but ended up being the best levels in the original game. You don't have to deal with Mario's physics, shooting enemies is satisfying with the sound effects, and has good pacing. That same enjoyment can be felt in New Super Mario Land. Mostly. For whatever reason, a change that was made for these sections was how bullets were shot. Bullets are slightly slower to shoot, and if you shoot as you move up or down, the bullets also shoot slightly upwards or downwards forward. These aren't problems that negatively affect the enjoyment of these levels, but I found it odd that these were included because they barely change anything about the formula. Another thing that's changed here is how bullets are fired. Originally you had to mash the B button, but the remake has it to where you can just hold it down to rapidly fire. I like this change because shoot 'em ups play better if you hold down the fire button instead of constantly mashing the button, like I'm playing Devil May Cry 2. Also, major props for bringing back the expert difficulty from the original. That's something that would be easy to forget, although I wish it would have been available from the beginning to swap between normal and expert. The last, and one of the more major aspects of the game, is the 4-player multiplayer. I can't play it, I don't have anybody to try this mode out with, but it does look fun from the demo, but it also looks like it dips in frame rate if too many models are on screen. Levels remain the same from the original. There isn't much to comment on related to this remake, and I want to focus on the details of the levels, right now actually. Graphics are a major topic related to this remake because of how drastic of a change it is. The original game had simple sprites in presenting its characters and levels. I would say it's most obvious in the levels with backgrounds using outlines to draw its elements and level terrain using simplistic sprites. I think there is a charm to these sprites. I would describe them as being simplistic in an appealing way, but they could have been better, especially if we consider Mario Land 2 and how that had its sprites. The remake, however, goes above and beyond with its graphics. It could have compromised with using the sprite work from games already on the Super Nintendo like Super Mario World or Super Mario All-Stars, but they chose to have it in the style of New Super Mario Bros. And it looks great. Backgrounds capture what the levels are about, level terrain has good sprites, and the enemy models look as if they were made for New Super Mario Bros. My only issue with the graphics is how it likely has an effect on the frame rate of the game. Thankfully, it's only in certain sections where there are too many models on screen, and in the multiplayer. As for the music of the game, it's weird to talk about and probably the weakest part of this game. While the tracks here aren't bad, in fact some of them are really good remixes such as the Birabuto and Luda Kingdoms, a couple of the songs don't capture the exact feel of the originals. A perfect example of this is Chai Kingdom. Have a listen. Here is another example, the theme to the submarine and airplane stages. I think if it were to apply the music style of New Super Mario Bros., the soundtrack would have captured the sound feel of the original while fitting with the new tagline. But as it is, we got a soundtrack that isn't bad, but could have been better. So now we can finally answer the question, is New Super Mario Land a good remake? I would say yes to that. It is a good remake and a good game overall. I wouldn't say it's my favorite way of playing Super Mario Land after playing 3 versions for this video. Super Mario Land DX by Torres is my favorite version of the game to play. But I can definitely see why some would have this as their favorite version, and I think the developer of this did an outstanding job overall, and I commend them for that. But where do you get this and how do you play it? You'll need to find the ROM file of this game. As to where you find it, you will need to do some research on safe places to download it. To play it, you need a Super Nintendo emulator. I recommend doing research also on that to see which one will fit your preference. Hopefully that will help you in playing this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.